Дорогие друзья, через несколько дней открывается Русская академия внутренних искусств, и на эту тему мы сделаем небольшое интервью, чтобы представить вам главного учителя нашей школы, Damo Mitchell. So, Damo, can you tell us a little bit what made you decide to open the online academy in the first place?
Originally the academy was designed for people that were already within my school. So it was going to be a sort of learning aid to assist people that had been studying with me in person for years and years. And then COVID hit, and there was more and more people reaching out asking to study with us. So I actually made the academy public. So it sort of transitioned into that. And then it just became increasingly popular from there.
So regarding the Nigong program, what tradition or what lineage is it based on?
Well, primarily it's from one particular teacher, Wang Haitao, who was in the northern Taoist lineages. So you could say Longmen Pai, but I think actually it's probably better to use the wider category of Chuanzhen because he was a little bit of a mixer from a few places. But I would say it's northern alchemy is probably the most accurate description. But because of the training I've done, there is also some influences from some basic Qigong I did when I was younger. And also I've got a Chan Buddhist background as well. So there's a little bit of a mix in there, if we're a bit totally honest. But I would say 70% of it would be from Northern Taoist traditions. Some of the early work right at the beginning, how to use your body, how to move properly, is more sort of basic Qigong training, just so that I know people know how to function well. And then there's a sort of 20% influence, I would say, from Chan in there too. But I think realistically, anybody who has been around a number of years, who's had influences from a few lines, that's always going to be the case. You're never going to get anything that's 100%. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about your history in studying these traditions?
The Nigong specifically?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's long. I should try to abbreviate it. But
you've been traveling for many years.
Yes.
And that was the period when you found these teachers from these traditions.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's just that I just did an interview with somebody else actually about my training history, and it amounted to over 5 hours. So that's why I should try to abbreviate it down.
Maybe briefly.
Briefly, yeah. So I started in my family into these arts. So I started with meditation and martial arts when I was a child, basically with my family. And then as soon as I got old enough to travel, I met a family of Qigong practitioners who were based in Europe that I started to train with. And then when I was able to, I moved to Asia, where I've been for the last 2.5 decades now or something, I guess, probably longer actually, time goes on. So I have just been studying Neigong, alchemy and internal martial arts for all of that time in these different parts of the world. So the early years, I guess I was looking around, trying to find my place in the world, like lots of people do. And then I eventually found the masters that I stayed and studied with, and that's what I teach and present, really. But yeah, I've been a full-time practitioner my entire life, pretty much.
So this is the basis of the Nigong program, which is now, I think, coming to its 7th year.
Inside the
academy.
Yeah. Wow, that went fast. Yes.
So when we look at the first couple of years of the academy, what kind of thing is it trying to teach? What kind of foundations is it trying to lay for long-term practice?
Yeah, well, the first couple of years are comprised of 2 main parts, really. I think the first thing is to learn how to use your body properly, because your body is the vessel or the vehicle within which your work takes place. So you can't deny the existence or importance of the body. So there's a lot of work with transforming the body, and that work is a combination of what would be done within the Taoist sects, plus that is where some of the knowledge that I have from studying body work in martial arts and Qigong, just to learn how to transform your body well. And then the other aspect to it, which is probably the one of the most well-known but probably least well understood aspects of Qigong and Neigong practice, which is to build and develop the Dantian and to understand how to accumulate qi, which if you read pretty much any Qigong text, obviously, you will encounter talk about the Dantian right from the beginning. But I don't think it's not often as well understood as it could be. So the first couple of years of the academy were about that. How do you transform the body, and how do you transform the dantian and how do you build and accumulate and circulate qi within the body in a very sort of a tangible and real way rather than using the imagination. Yeah.
So that brings us to some principles that we use in our studying together, such as opening the body, building, purging, and moving. Yeah, some of these terms are actually in the Nigong sense a little bit difficult to translate into Russian.
Oh, really?
So I was wondering, yes,
Right,
if
okay.
you're going to explain very briefly, like what do you mean by opening, for example, opening the body?
Sure. Well, opening the body is one of the first things that has to be done to transform it, which is, as you yourself know, is to literally create more space in the body. So sometimes when people hear opening, they think you mean like folding a joint or opening as in, I don't know, relaxing or releasing or something, but it's not. We mean to take your whole skeleton and then explode it out in every direction. So there is more space between all the joints in your spine, more space in the shoulders, more space in the plates of your skull, everything. Just open the skeleton out so it occupies more space so that all of the insides of the body are stretched. And this is really what gives you access to the early stages of the internal work. But I apologize, the other terms you said were purging, I heard, and what was
building, purging, and moving is the
Right.
terms that we use, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
building, what do we mean by building?
Yeah, well, building is usually talking about qi more than anything else. So there is an energy within your body that is a form of, takes two forms of magnetism and a form of electricity that is produced in the cells or mobilizes within the nerves of the body as well as the tissues. And this substance is sort of collectively called qi or energy, and we have to learn how to get the body to function at a more efficient level so that it can produce more of it.
And
Basically.
that, of course, means building the dantian
Yes.
as well, the factory for it and the storehouse.
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah, as you know, the dantian is the magnetic center of the body as well as the sort of factory for the production of this energy. It's something that can be surprising to people when they first start, is just how much of this energy your body can actually produce if you understand how to do the building part of the process. Yeah.
And what about the purging?
Well, purging is because, as with all things in life, things can have a positive or a negative or a useful or a unuseful aspect to them. And something that can happen with regards to the body is that it can accumulate, the Chinese call it xie qi, meaning sort of sick energy, I suppose. But basically when this is accumulated in the body, then your body can be a little bit toxic, shall we say. Turbid is the word they often use in Chinese medicine, if you can translate that to Russian.
I can. Is
You
it
do that.
purely a physiological thing or is it psychological thing as well?
Well, the two are linked, aren't they? I mean, that's part of the key teaching of Neigong, is that mind and body are pretty much the same thing, just expressed on different levels. So a lot of the purging is about getting these things out of the body, these residues, these turbidities that aren't supposed to be there, so that your body and your mind can function more effectively. Yeah.
And what about the moving aspect? Because we say we want
Yes.
to move qi through the body. Yes.
Yeah, moving qi through the body. Some people will know of things like the microcosmic orbit or whatever, these more famous parts of Qigong. But actually, it's a little different from this. The qi, once it accumulates and builds inside the body, will start to fill the cavities that you've opened, which is where the opening comes in. And then once your body reaches a certain level of efficiency, then this qi will start to move and mobilize through the system so that it can transform your body according to Qigong teachings. And I mean, that's the balance that we have in the arts. Building the qi, purging the qi, and moving the qi through an open body is really what you're trying to do to build your foundations of the arts.
And I guess that gives the complete package in its own way for developing the internal practice, isn't it? Because I think there's a lot of schools out there that focus on the movements, on a lot of the movement aspect, but less so on the building or anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And again, any teacher can only ever present what their experience is, but my personal experience, which is, I guess you could argue, no more or less valid than anyone else's, but my experience of studying these arts for all these decades, that I think people miss the balance between those. Yeah, if I had to pick one flaw that I would say was major in a lot of people's practice, is they don't have the balance between building, purging, and mobilizing the qi effectively. So if you don't, then what will happen is you will have a leaning towards one of them, and then the practice is unbalanced, and you kind of glass ceiling in your development. Yeah.
How much the mental aspect influences the physical practice in these arts?
Huge, yeah, but it works both ways. The same way as the body work affects the mind as well. The two are related. As we said, they are essentially one and the same thing. So you can't expect to go very deep into something like Negong if you don't work to try to train or refine the qualities of your mind.
And it's actually something that we address within the first couple of years of the academy, and it's something that's an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yes,
there
for
are,
sure.
as well as the energetic exercises or physical body opening exercises, there's also the mental aspect of the development as well.
Yes,
right
completely.
from the beginning. Yeah.
It would be a lacking Negong program if it just completely ignored the mind. Yeah, so that is in
for
there.
sure. What personal qualities do you think are important for a successful progress within these arts for students?
Oh, diligence. That's the first thing. You have to have the time or the willing to have a regular practice.
Regular being the key here, I guess. Isn't it?
Yes, binge training is never something that works very well. So a lot of people will try to do hours and hours and hours and then nothing for long periods of time. No, you have to have a regularity in your training, and you have to enjoy it, which a lot of people seem to miss. Some people approach it with a sort of flagellistic kind of mindset that I must beat myself into a certain state. But no, you must enjoy it. I mean, I think that is one of the most important parts of all these arts, is that as well as having all of the correct components and training mechanisms, it must be a joyous experience, but the miserable practitioner will find their progress is limited.
Something that we've noticed as well amongst our students is that the analytic aspect of approach to the practice is also very important, isn't it? You have to be able to analyze each of your practice sessions so that you have a direction, isn't it? So
you have to understand intellectually what you are doing. There is a tendency, certainly not always, but sometimes how I was taught in Asia was very monkey see, monkey do, is the saying in English, where you just kind of follow along and do the movements and expect it to understand. But that kind of training is outdated and kind of limited. You shouldn't try to philosophize your way into enlightenment, shall we say, but you do need to have at least an intellectual understanding of what you're doing. So there must be engagement. I mean, your intellect is still a part of your mind. We can't deny it. So it must also be involved, so you know what everything is for.
So each exercise in the academy or each weekly lesson is trying to achieve something particular. So a good student will be able to notice what skills it's trying to develop and then analyze themselves within their own practice and realize what they're lacking and what they need to be working on, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. And then, but of course that's the perfect world, but then sometimes we make mistakes and that's where the teachers come in. So you will need feedback, because all of us will at times misunderstand what we were doing, and that's why we all need feedback, I guess.
So in the first year of the academy there are 54 lessons.
Oh, right.
One for each week. So that's a lot of different things.
Miscounted by 2 weeks then.
By 2 weeks.
You're right.
There's
Okay.
bonuses. Yeah.
Okay.
How would you recommend that the student would structure their own practice? Because like in each lesson we would say, all right, you practice this for this week, and then next week you practice this for this week. So at the end of 30 weeks you have 30 things that you would have practiced.
Yes.
So what would you recommend to students?
Well, a lot of the lessons build upon each other, as you know, because you've been doing them as well as translating them. So a lot of the lessons are sort of layered onto a previous one. It is true that at the beginning your exercise routine, your practice regime will go up and you will have a bit, but you will get to a stage where it becomes a constant. And then what happens is you will realize that there are a few themes. There are some exercises that train your breath, and there are some exercises that mobilize the qi, and there are some exercises that build the dantian. And with some time, they sort of come together into one package that becomes your daily training. You'll find, of course, that everybody's individual, and you will have maybe a weakness in one area and a strength in another, and then the training is just tailored a little bit to suit that. So if, for example, I don't know, you're not very good at sinking the qi because you're a little bit stressed, I should say, then maybe your training is more geared towards that side of it, where you need to learn how to study attentive relaxation so the qi sinks, and then other people will have other issues. And that's the nature of training. That's the art form. Yeah.
In your experience, what causes the most common glass ceilings in practice in students?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one, they underestimate the importance of the body work. Yeah, I think that was probably the first one that's safe to mention. If you don't transform the body, then your vehicle for doing the work is obviously not sufficient. So sometimes people will come in and try to do energy work, or even try to do meditation or something, or Tai Chi, or they haven't transformed their body, they can't do it, right? Well, they can't do it very well. So you must do the body work alongside all of the interesting energetics. And then I think the other thing that glass ceilings people is their mind more than anything else. The students that have an open, light-hearted, curious and fun-loving approach to it, and are not too with their mindset to sort of
overfocused, too intense.
Intense is the word. Intense is the word.
Intensity tends to run out, doesn't it?
Intensity runs out.
It tends to come and go like this.
And intensity is often based in a sort of deep-rooted fear, actually, and that's not a great mindset. I think that, and I know that because that's what I was doing when I was younger, for sure. And as I got older, I had to learn that actually there's this fascinating subject, and then curiosity drives you into it, and then the glass ceilings tend to be taken away. I think that's what, all of the old masters were pointing at, but they told you not to strive, not to be goal-orientated. They weren't being so literal, because you still have to be diligent, but what they were implying is you need to enjoy this process, otherwise you'll become stuck.
Yeah, for sure. So you've had many live seminars before starting the academy, yeah? And after studying the academy, now you have students coming in that have been studying online with the school. So have you noticed, what can you say on that? Is there any benefits to having previous online study to the live events? Yeah,
for sure. Firstly, I was pleasantly surprised, because when I was asked to do the teaching online, I was like all people at that 6 or 7 years ago, whatever it was, unsure as to how effective it would be. But then when we had people turning up who trained online, I was pleasantly surprised how much people had managed to grasp it. The people had actually managed to go quite far into the process, further than I thought. But maybe I'm a little bit of a pessimist by my nature. No, it was good when they turned up. And then teaching them live was actually a real joy, because you could kind of minimize a lot of the choreography, obviously, and people already understood the terminology and what to do. So nowadays, live training is often actually just refining things they've already done in the academy. So no, it's been great. Yeah.
There are some students that, because they can't have access to the live teachings, would only study online, or they would only study through the books. What is the advantage and disadvantage of that kind of approach to practice? Yeah,
sure. I mean, the first thing we should say, if we're realistic, is that online training will never be the same as live training with regards to usefulness. But that's only if the live teacher is very knowledgeable and any good, because that caveat is often missed. So if the live teacher is not up to a certain standard, shall we say, which is realistic in life, then then online training is actually better. But aside from all that, the advantage of online training is you can stop and rewind and go back and rewatch and study and have everything there, as opposed to live training. How I learned was more, you would be shown something once and then the teacher didn't do it again, and you just kind of had to figure it out. So there is that advantage, absolutely. That is, you can kind of keep going deeper and deeper into the materials there. But of course, we would be lying if we didn't say that having somebody put their hands on you and actually adjust you is useful. So I think that the ultimate combination is actually both. I mean, if when I was younger, if online training had existed and these platforms were even here, rather than dodgy VHS videos you had to order in the post that never worked anyway. But if all of this material had existed when I was younger, it would have made the learning process a lot faster. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Something of a massive benefit as well that I and many of the students found within the academy is that you keep coming back to the same lessons. And because now, after a year or months of practice, your body has transformed and you have different experience and understanding somatically. So you go back, and then the same material that you read originally now has a different meaning and more depth.
Oh, yeah. So, it's something I've advised all people in the academy to do several times. And I don't know if they've taken my advice, but I hope so. Is that I think that you work through the material, and then when you've got a bit of time, actually go back and redo the core lessons from that year as well. And you will find, each year that you understand it deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much for your time. And
No,
is there any
you're
words that you would like to say to the Russian-speaking audience?
To the Russian-speaking audience.
To the Russian-speaking
Yeah, well,
audience.
good luck with it, really. I'll be really pleased to see what people manage. I've never been to Russia, and the only Russians I've really had contact with is probably yourself and a few other students. I can say Russians have always been a pleasure to teach. They're not a soft nation, I have to say. So no, thank you very much for translating it, and good luck with your practice, guys.
Thanks.